Hey, welcome everybody to the 40 Finance channel. My name's Jeff Beers. Talking about some weird stock market reactions. Obviously, we had a lot of earnings news this week and it keeps going. I think Amazon comes in after hours today, which will be of interest to me and many others. But some of the stocks that I have and even a few stocks that I don't own have had oddball reactions to either good news or bad news. So that's what I'm going to lead off here today. And then as always, we'll poke around in the chat, answer questions and whatnot. But we'll lead off here today with Visa, who reported October 26th. All right, so 2 days ago. Visa beats EPS by 8 cents, GAAP EPS, and beats on revenue. So non-GAAP beats by 8 cents, GAAP EPS beats by 10 cents. Revenue of $6.5 billion, plus 28% year over year. Now, granted, last year was COVID, so take that with a grain of salt. Beats by 50 million. Shares went up 0.5% after hours on the 26th. Payments volume increased 17%. Cross-border volume, excluding Europe, which drives our international transaction revenue, increased 46%. If you follow this channel, you know that I own Visa. You know that I've been talking about the cross-border travel. There's a lot of, I don't know if it's baked in fees or whatnot, but changing currency. You know, if I went to France, just to pick one out of a hat there, changing my Visa dollars into euros or whatever they use over there, Visa makes more money on transactions like that. And obviously, those are going to be huge transaction numbers in a normal year for people like tourists, but also business travel. And you don't see that a lot. Maybe here in America, you don't think about that. But if you get to areas where countries are more sort of conglomerated, whether that's in Europe, Africa, even in Latin America, you have a lot of cross-border travel, almost daily for some folks. So seeing that stuff come back in is really good. And obviously the expectation for stockholders and Visa is that cross-border continues to improve. We're nowhere near par, if you will, from 2019. So great news there. And unfortunately, though, as we go to the Visa chart, let's see. Let's do a 1 month chart. You can also do 5 days, but you see how things reacted. So beating on EPS, beating on revenue. It was $232 or so before the market closed, dropped to $223, and you're still bleeding out here today at $212. So what happened exactly? The key for Visa has been the guidance going forward, all right? So Visa said it doesn't expect, let me bring this down so you guys can see it. Visa said it doesn't expect cross-border travel to return to 2019 levels until the summer of 2023. That's not next year, folks. That's still a couple years away. The company expects fiscal year 2022 net revenue growth in the high teens with client incentives, blah, 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 blah. So the high teens, let's talk about that, because on paper, there was a relatively big expectation for Visa recovery trajectory next year. I'm not sure, I'm going to flip back to Yahoo. I'm not sure if this has been updated or not. But I kind of hope it wasn't, and I don't think it is. Okay, good. So this number, 19%, Visa has an odd fiscal calendar, okay? So They just closed what would be 2021. Kind of looking at my calendar to make sure I say it right. They just closed the fiscal year of 2021. So even though we are still living in that calendar year, Visa's fiscal year runs from Q4 into next whatever, October, something like, or actually be the end of September. Excuse me. So the 19% you see displayed here is a projection for next fiscal year. So year ago sales 24 billion, estimate right now is 19% higher. This number here, as of let's just say 7 days ago, was closer to 35%. So analysts have already come in on this revenue estimate and lowered it dramatically. Okay, lowered it dramatically. And from an EPS standpoint, though, you have the estimate going from 591 to 727. So the fundamentals are still strong. You're still growing, and this EPS growth, I would say, is very healthy when you take into account that they also have a dividend. But this number, anytime you're sagging below 20%, you start to get questions going on because there's a lot of growth names that are doing more. I, for one, am expecting Visa to outperform. Okay, so for fiscal year 2022, I'm going to say that right now, if you don't own Visa and you've been thinking about Visa, I personally think that this is a decent time to buy it. Maybe you keep waiting until this bleed out continues on. But if you've ever considered it, it's not a bad time because I think, first of all, this shopping season for Christmas and the holidays in general are going to be significantly more valuable from a commerce perspective than what we saw last year for all the reasons we know, right? So you think about holiday dinners, think about travel, whether by car or a plane, and you think about all the things that go into the holiday season from a spend perspective. Those are all going to be up big. They're not going to be 2019 levels, but they're going to be pretty elevated from last year. So I like Visa heading into their first quarter, technically our fourth quarter. We'll see. There's, supply chain, this and that, whatever. What I can tell you for the United States consumer, assuming that there is no pushback from a new variant of COVID, nothing's going to stop the spending for the Christmas/holiday season in America. Absolutely nothing. It was different last year because of the restrictions. Those are phasing out here in this country, and there's booster vaccines. There was a child vaccine clearance of some kind I saw come through the news yesterday. So I expect a full-bore holiday. People may not be able to buy exactly what they want, right? When we think of the supply chain, whether it's PlayStations or whatever, but they will be able to spend money, and perhaps more importantly, they will be able to spend money out with events, restaurants, plays, craft shows, whatever folks do on the holidays. And I think that's a boon for Visa. And I think that they are, I would say that their disappointing guidance is sort of an undercut, and I see them outperforming. All right. So let me throw one more thing in here about Visa. Now, to be fair, just by the way, I own Visa. I'm bullish on Visa, so let me just make that very clear. Always do your own research. But look at this headline that comes in yesterday. Visa tumbles despite more buy now, pay later solutions tapping Visa technology. And so what's important here is that, this is my whole bullish thesis on Visa, is they have the plumbing for transactions, okay? They have a worldwide transaction network, and we're not going to read through this article, but basically there are a lot of people with buy now, pay later becoming such a hot thing that consumers want. The easiest way to initiate a service like that is to use Visa's plumbing, all right? And let me just tell you, you don't get to use it for free. So there's fractional payment percentages that come off, all kinds of different things. And overall, what's this last little line here? Visa highlighted in its recent survey that showed that future interest in buy now, pay later installment plans remains high and outpaces current adoption in the surveyed countries. Looks like they surveyed Asia Pacific. All right, we'll just leave that there. So this actually gets me a little bit more excited about some of those buy now, pay later stocks that are out there. To be honest with you, I think it's good news for PayPal, which I'm an owner in. It's good news for Visa. And is it a firm? I think it's a firm that is getting a lot of traction right now in the market. Christmas time could see a lot out of those. The part that bugs me about buy now, pay later, to be real honest with you, is I think that regulation from the government comes in somewhere and slows it down. However, this is a very bullish sentiment for things such as buy now, pay later companies. All right, so that's Visa. You look at my list here. Okay, so the next shocker, as I'm just going to sort out my little windows. Shocker. When you think about momentum and you think about crowd or fan clubs, Shopify has a pretty strong following in the world of stock market and growth stocks, high growth stocks. Shopify is a cornerstone of many people's portfolios if you look on Twitter or other chat boards. All right, so Shopify missed non-GAAP EPS by 41 cents. GAAP EPS of $9 did beat, which is, frankly, that's the one that I stare at more often than not, because that's supposed to be how you are supposed to track your business results, right? GAAP is general accepted principles or practices or something like that. Revenue, though, which is the key to any growth stock, plus 46% year over year, phenomenal. But it did miss slightly. Now, why that, in my opinion, should bring Shopify down to some degree is just the fact that normally when these stocks that have a high valuation multiple, it generally doesn't take a whole lot of negative news to bring them down a notch. And I'm not talking about going to zero. I'm talking about Shopify being, 100 times their EPS. And we'll look at their price to sales here in a little bit. But I would have expected Shopify to go down on this news. And once we type it in here, unless it's changed recently, nope, it's up 8.71% on the day. So phenomenal reaction if you're a Shopify shareholder. You see where this thing was trending, 1345 back on the 27th. Now you're at 1480, and it just bounced right back on what I thought was not negative necessarily for the long-term use case, but it's typically enough for a company. Let's see what their price to sales is. So 46 times price to sales, okay, forward PE of 238. Any sort of wobble in a stock priced at that valuation should bring it down, something, 1%, 2%, I don't know. I would have not been surprised if Shopify fell 5 to 10% today on this news. I wouldn't say that it wouldn't recover eventually, but I expected a Snapchat /Twitter type haircut after those announcements? Turns out, absolutely not. And arguably, this stock is moving stronger towards even more gains. And it'll actually begin to overvalue itself. You know, it will raise the valuation multiple of its stock today by, which is surprising, right? So if the multiple today was, now this is a trailing metric here, so let's just do forward PE. 238, when this price action, if it continues to go up, you'll wake up tomorrow and the forward PE projection for Shopify will be more tomorrow than it is today on a negative headline. It's kind of crazy to me. Let's take a look. I'm going to go to TipRanks here because I was sort of curious what the analysts were saying for Shopify. Only one person came back in yesterday, so this is going to take a little while to update, but it was a buy rating at $1,800. So one person on Shopify. Did they have time to update this, which is the earnings estimates? It doesn't look like it from the screen. I'd have to study it more, but this is sort of interesting for Shopify. We talked about forward PE, and granted, this is a consensus estimate. 783 this year, 773 next year. So you're working backwards on your forward price to earnings column. So just watch out. I wouldn't be buying it at this stage. I wouldn't buy it up on mixed news, but you know, Shopify has continuously outperformed expectations. All right, I'm going to pause there for a second and just say hi, Kevin Hawthorne. How you doing? Thanks as always for showing up. Good to see you. Black Andrew picked up Intel before earnings. That's a killer. I don't think that Intel is necessarily a bad stock. I've done a few videos on this, but man, I do project stuck in the mud for a while. So if you're Andrew, you know, looks like you lost, it was $56, it dropped to 48. If you guys don't follow Intel, so I love what the Pat Gelsinger as a CEO, I just love like his candor, just like how straightforward he is. He basically came out and said, look, it's a long road. We're going to throw a lot of money at this thing to produce more factories and whatnot, or fabs, and it's going to be expensive and it's going to take a couple years. And he basically said it almost to that degree, and people just freaked out. I think with Intel investors, you know, you just have to sit, I would not expect much in the way of good news anytime over the next year, okay? Good news for them would be breaking ground on these factories just to show that progress is being made. Otherwise, Gelsinger really, he laid it out, man, and you got to give him some credit for that. You know, his goal, I'm going to summarize here, but he said in the earnings call, our goal is to get back to leadership position, okay? And it's going to be expensive and it's going to take a long time. So that's the kind of guy that I like in charge, who's just honest and doesn't try to sugarcoat things in the investor call and then turn around and do something else. So I kind of like that, but it's fairly obvious that Intel, I think, has limited good news over the next year. All right. Who'd I miss? Oh, hello from Alex. Not easy to catch your stream. Glad to join. Thanks, Alex. Allie's here. Good morning. What is going on to Facebook? It had a good revenue. I thought didn't it bounce up after the revenue? I didn't actually look. Let me just take a quick look. 5 days. No, it did fall down a little bit. You can see it's ticking back up. I say if you own Facebook, you're fine. If you bought it at 329, you obviously have some short-term pain right now. But I mean, I don't know. They seemed unconcerned about the Apple privacy changes, and they seemed relatively bullish on the short term as far as guidance and stuff. I think you just wait it out. I mean, they have a lot of negative headlines in terms of potential government regulation, health and safety concerns. They're going through the ringer right now, and usually, that's the time to buy, with a company like this. The thing that they're not going through, which I think is important, is they're not going through money problems, right? They have all the money in the world, literally in their savings account. They're printing money every day. Q4 is coming up, which should be a good period for advertising. They have admitted that the Apple update has presented problems. They've been very streamlined about that, or they've shared that information, yet continue to outperform. So I don't know. If I was in Facebook and I was winning in Facebook, I would probably continue to hold it. That's my 2 cents anyway. Krishna would love to have your buy, so hold take on Visa. I'm gonna, I don't do this a lot, but I'm gonna say buy Visa if you're interested at 212. Let me tell you for sure, 212. If you want to be extra patient, you can wait till tomorrow or Monday, because there's not, this chart insinuates that perhaps the bleeding isn't quite done. You might get in another 1 or 2 more percents off the price. But I was looking at TipRanks earlier today for Visa, and the best performing analysts have updated their picks on Visa in the future. And let's just say I'm not the only one. So sorry, I did a little hover there. You've got straight buys. Low bar on this one is 263. Okay. Then you've got some highs from analysts, 284, 280, even a 305. If you plan on holding Visa for 1 year, I think that this is a good opportunity to start a position at 212. Now, I own several shares. It's about a $10,000, let's just say it's 50 shares, okay? It's about $10,000 worth of Visa. My cost basis is in the neighborhood of 190. So I'm probably clear of being negative, but I have zero intention to sell. And if for some reason there's a stock market meltdown while Visa's on this sort of bad momentum, and it would drop, let's just say, under $200, I would certainly buy more. But I would consider buying more here if I didn't have a position, because I think that a lot of this stuff's overblown. All right. Oops, sorry. MasterCard. So I'll just be honest. MasterCard's probably in the same situation. I do not look hard at MasterCard, so I don't want to say. I prefer Visa over MasterCard for stock, and that's mostly because of Visa's technology. But I am not nearly as well versed in MasterCard. So I'll leave that there. I'll show you, just for kicks, see what the analysts say about MasterCard. That's not MasterCard. MA. You've got buys on this one too. When is their earnings report? It's got to be soon or recently. Oh, today. Okay. So with the outlook that Visa just gave, I would not buy this one before earnings, and I would hope for if I was interested in the stock. I would kind of hope that they said the exact same thing as Visa and that it went down a little bit, and then maybe I'd pick it up if I liked MasterCard. PayPal, I'm in big on PayPal, very similar to my Visa holding. Would I buy PayPal today? I don't think so. I don't think at this price. I've talked about it before, that sometimes PayPal gets overpriced. Let me see this. Well, it is down a lot this month. It's funny, for as much as I'm in the stock, it's nowhere close to my sell list, and I've kind of topped out on the position that I want for it, so I don't follow it as closely as you think. Maybe it is a buy in the sense, or maybe it's a slow add. You've got RSI, you guys can't see some of this, but RSI of 37. You're now down underneath the 200-day. That's for the first time since roughly April 12th. So you know what? I was quick to say no on PayPal, and I was kind of, because I was referencing this 300 number that they had recently. See if I can pick that up for you. September, they didn't quite close at 300, but September 3rd they got really close to it. I think that that's probably running hot by PayPal standards. Let me show you something else. So if we go back in time, pre-pandemic, you got 30x or so forward PE on PayPal, all right? Full bore pandemic, like everything else, valuation rose 52. Now we're at 40.98. PEG ratio just under 2. Historically, you've been able to get it in the 1s, 1.5 maybe on the high end. Price to sales, 12. Historically, you've been able to get it under 10. So it's not a super sale by any stretch of the imagination, but maybe you can add it here. November 9th is your earnings. That will be very interesting. And obviously folks didn't like the Pinterest rumor, but that's since gone away. Pick your spot with PayPal. I love PayPal for the next 5 to 10 years. Absolutely love it. But I do also encourage folks to, buy stuff on sale. Like, it sucks to go red on a stock and hold it. I don't have a very good patience level for that. So if I bought PayPal at 234 today, I would get very antsy if it dropped to 220, right? The next day, and then let's just say it stayed that way for 3 or 4 months. That would not make me feel good. So I always try to get best I can to find a lower price, and that's what I would recommend here. All right, let's see. IDK, dude, I'm thinking about getting into Apple before earnings. Is it too risky? Yeah, Apple is lower. I don't know. That's a tough one. Because you're doing an options trade short term, right? Let me just double check. I wouldn't personally be comfortable with that. Okay? I'm just sharing, But to be fair, this isn't much of an options channel. I just think that Apple is that the next 12 months aren't like groundbreaking by their standards. Okay, so right now you go EPS 560 to 568. It's just kind of ho-hum. Revenue, granted, it's in the 300s of billions of dollars. It's single-digit revenue growth next year by a mile. I mean, they could pad this number to 400 billion, which would be super impressive, and you're probably still sitting in single digits, maybe yeah, you'd still be sitting in single-digit revenue growth. So I don't know. I think Apple's in an oddball cycle. I have no doubt that the company will innovate and drop a bombshell on us that we have no idea is coming. But when you think about it from a short-term call option, I don't know. It doesn't feel good to me, but you should definitely watch a channel that does more with options, because I just don't do a lot here. All right. He just made 2K on Lucid, right? Is that right? LCID, yeah. So congratulations on that. That's awesome. Boom, $27 to $34. I assume they had some sort of good earnings report. Lucid to report. I don't know. They report on Monday the 15th. Right here. First deliveries to take place on October 30th. There you go. So congrats to you. Love this channel for fundamentals. Thank you, Montero. Did you cover Apple? Sorry, I know that I'm getting to chat questions that are a little behind. By the way, like Apple stock, what do you say? Like, the track record is phenomenal. So when I say Apple stock is meh, if you're going to hold it for 5 or 10 years, I mean, I don't know that there's a bad time. That particular person was talking about options trades, which are much more short term. And in the short term, 1 year out, I think Apple is meh for the next year. I really do. But the magic that they have, and because their stock and market cap is so huge, they can literally put out a headline about just about anything. And as long as it's positive, you'll get a bump in the stock price. So we'll find out more what kind of headlines they might have on tap here soon. Apple today after market cap can report very good earnings, and traditionally last quarter for Apple was huge. Okay, so you're saying traditionally the last quarter for Apple is huge. That's great. I don't have that information off the top of my head. We know that next quarter is going to be the most important, right? If you're a consumer product, consumer technology company, nothing beats our version of Q4, the calendar version of Q4. So nothing is more important there. That's where the kind of like supply chain, they had a headline, Apple did 2 or 3 weeks ago about the number of units, if they were going to ship 10 million units of their phone. Initially, they have backed that number off by 2 million. So just watch out for those things, because Q4, no doubt they'll make a ton of money. But what we're looking for a lot of times with stocks is to beat the year before, right? Or set new records, and sometimes those records are profits and not units. Just keep that in mind. Danny Alvarado, dude, Enphase, Enphase went crazy. There's one that I'm not even sure makes 100% sense. Look, quick background, I used to own Enphase. I sold it for a loss. I was in at a very high point. Might have been this same point. I was right in this like 189, 200 in the early part of the year, and you guys, you can see what happened. So I sold out for a loss, and my argument being the valuation and whatnot. And I've had multiple, and I do mean multiple, opportunities to get back in this one, including October 4th at 145. I could have bought it right back in, booked my tax loss, but I decided not to based on those fundamentals. But yesterday, they did things that people are looking for, right? Let's see if I can show this. No, this is a subscription article. I should have known better. The long story short is, after market close, released a stunner of a third quarter report. Revenue nearly doubled. Strong demand for microinverters, 51% jump in storage. Investors may recall that Enphase acquired the microinverter business from SunPower 3 years ago, blah, blah, blah. So net income slid on higher operating expenses. Wall Street was expecting much lower profits. Its earning beat was so huge that the market sent Enphase shares flying 25%. 25%. Okay? This is what I don't understand about Enphase. This company at $218, if they hit, they'll make $1.37 billion, and perhaps, even more of a stunner, 227 is the projection for the EPS. So you're right at 100 PE on this one after the run-up. And let's look at Solar Edge. Okay. 348, 509. So they're in a 60-ish forward PE, right? $1.97 billion. So it's interesting. The solar world is very interesting. Looks like Solar Edge comes out November 2nd. It will be interesting to see how they compare, right? So this is Solar Edge after the Enphase news. They gained $100. Oh no, excuse me. They gained $40. But now the pressure's on them. Can they do the same thing? I am happy for everyone in Enphase, absolutely. I would say that's a pretty big bump. I don't know if I would feel comfortable about that. All right, what is your opinion in BABA? I don't invest in standalone Chinese stocks. However, it's hard not to see the potential value there, so I wouldn't blame anybody who bought it. Look at Shopify. Yep, we talked about Shopify. That's where we were and how it was going up. Let's see where we're at now. Was 8%, still at 8%. So I just think with Shopify, they threw a little bit of a warning out there. And it wasn't like a warning in the sense like we're going out of business and we'll never grow again. It was like, hey guys, supply chain, consumer shifts in behavior, etc. We didn't quite hit what we thought we would. So again, I thought this one would be more likely down 8% than up 8%, but that's what I'm getting at with weird. Okay. Update from Black Andrew. Thanks for going over Intel. I plan on holding long, collecting dividends and writing covered calls, which is perfect. Picked up a sliver of Visa in my account. Nice. Good stuff. And, with what Andrew's doing, and Andrew, I need to do your covered call strategy. People have been bugging me about that for a long time, and I don't know what my problem is that I haven't done that with things like PayPal and Visa, but I need to look into that. Long story short, though, if Andrew's got the long-term mindset, and he can probably slowly over time bring his cost basis on Intel down, they have some huge things planned. We've talked about them a lot. The problem in the past, pre-Gelsinger, the problem in the past is they never fulfilled their promises. They always said they were going to do this, and they didn't do it. They always said they were going to build that, and they didn't do it. I think Pat Gelsinger does it. I think he's a doer, and I think that he's man enough to step up and tell people that this shit isn't going to be easy. And so, again, I like the guy for the job, but it's a big job, and if you're interested in Intel, I think you'll have multiple opportunities over the next 6 months. And if you're Andrew and you know you're going to be long, maybe stop here, let the blood, filter out a little bit. And when you feel better about it, maybe January, February, you buy some more shares, hopefully below your cost basis, and you set yourself up and you get that dividend. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Eric Lee, do you think apps run up over the past 2 months as a sign of good earnings? Probably. I haven't studied apps in about a month. Digital Turbine. When are they coming out? November 2nd. All right. So one thing about apps that I think we all saw, certainly people who do fundamental analysis, was just that the dip was a little ridiculous, down to $50 in August. And it's kind of working its way up. Let's see what people are expecting out of this company. I mean, now I'd say it's getting close to the top as these numbers just hit me here. So let's just skip ahead to, oh no, we can't skip ahead. So $1.57, okay, if they hit their numbers. So you're in the 80s, 70s or so on your forward PE. That's probably not really where apps is valuated on. Huge growth this year, 300 million to 1.2 billion. It's expected to slow. So that's where some of that noise was. However, people are starting to get back into it. They've got a lot of pressure on them with this move is what I would say. I would say limited upside. Here's a 5-year chart. February 1st, you're at $82. I'm going to go on the record as saying limited upside at this price and lots of pressure on that November, like nail-biting pressure on that November 2nd call. If you were here August 1st at $58, you don't have any pressure. They might hit, miss, whatever. You should be fine in the 50s. But if you bought at $80, $85, pressure's on. We talked about Visa and me being 189 or whatever my cost basis is. I don't feel that much pressure, even at 212, just because I feel like they've passed that mark already. They've established enough fundamentals that 189 would be a very obvious buying opportunity. All right. Do you prefer PayPal over Square? I do. I also do own Square. That was something I did, I believe, this year when it was around 199-ish, somewhere in there. I do not believe in Square nearly like I believe in PayPal from a fundamental standpoint. I think Square is just wildly overvalued right now for even the things that they have on the table. However, I bought that company because when I was doing videos about, hey, PayPal over Square, here's why. Not only the fundamentals, but the e-commerce business, Venmo versus Cash App, all the things that Square does, PayPal is bigger and better at, and they have, better fundamentals, right? Well, eventually, when we went through last year and we saw what was going on, Venmo, Cash App, and Cash App wins with a younger demographic for sure. I was like, you know what? Like, why don't I own both of these? Because there's nothing that says Venmo is ever going to have 100% market share, and neither is Cash App. They're going to run 60-40, 50-50, whatever. And I definitely think the finance super app concept is at play. I would argue that PayPal has a better opportunity there, but I'm not discounting Square because of the wonderful things they did with Cash App. So I own both. If I was standing with a gun to my head, I would say buy PayPal over Square if you're starting a new position. I don't think I would buy either of them at their current prices, though. I would wait for a down day at the bare minimum. Square is swelling PayPal market share. Yeah, I mean a little bit, but don't forget when you start from zero, which they've done, it's easy to grow. So that's the same argument that MasterCard versus Visa, all right, which probably started 2 or 3 years ago. It was like buy MasterCard because they have more room to grow than Visa. And I get that. MasterCard can post 40% sales beats, whereas Visa's so big, you know, they might only do 20%. The thing with Visa, and I'll probably argue it very slightly with PayPal too, is what I call the plumbing, is the setup, is the connectivity of money between so many countries and merchants and whatever, that to me, like if you want to future-proof yourself, I would pick Visa over MasterCard. And I would also say that PayPal's extended network of e-commerce clients plus Venmo future-proofs pretty well as well. So the growth story, I get it. Like the percentages are always going to favor Square. But I will say the Square is overdue for a big announcement. Let me show you something here. This is still showing. So Cash App and all that crap that we saw in the pandemic, that's over now, right? And they've got a historic base of performance for Cash App. And I will tell you that I read app reports all the time, and Cash App is doing better than Venmo in some of the download metrics. From an analyst point of view, though, we have EPS, which really doesn't play into Square a whole hell of a lot, but let's just pretend this number's 2. You know, you got an EPS of 200 some odd. This is where it's going to be a fork in the road for Square. 11% revenue growth next year. Don't forget that Visa just got dinged a couple percentage points for claiming a 19 or high teens growth rate, okay? Square's coming off 100% growth rate from $9.5 billion to 19, okay? Next year, 21, and that's not bad, but it's a lower percentage, and these are estimates. These are consensus estimates based on 33 different analysts. So Square needs a new shiny object. They have to continue to grow at the level they're at. They have to grow, and they have to keep making shiny objects. I have not seen this year's shiny object. That's notable, right? Cryptocurrency in the app, old news. Cash App, old news. All the things that they did with merchants, those are coming back online now, old news. They have to keep innovating in order to continue to drive the growth rate. Cash App will keep growing, right? Merchant base will probably keep growing. Cryptocurrency trading probably keep growing. But it never grows better than from the time you turn it on for that first year, right? Going from 0 to something in Cash App is always going to be 70 bazillion percentage points, and then it keeps chopping from there. All right. I have to run, but I am going to try to skip ahead. Danny put 4K on a call with Alphabet, turned into 15 grand. Nice job, man. Some of you guys have awesome patience, or not even patience. You have awesome conviction. Congratulations to Danny. Igor, Square earnings tonight. Good call out there. Amazon, I'm looking forward to Amazon. Think that if you see any weakness in Amazon before Q4, okay, I'm in around the $3,000 mark, $3,100 actually. Today you're at 34-ish, 34.58. Guys, if you've ever thought about Amazon and you start to see this thing, let's say they have something stupid today, and you're going to 32 or so, anything under 32, I think it's a gift, man. I really do. And I don't think this price is too bad. I still have a $4,000 price target on Amazon myself. Amazon will pump if they ever announce a stock split, and a stock split, I agree with that. And Derek Ridland, been buying quite a bit this week. Visa, Intel, Facebook. Derek, there's a fella, Black Andrew, was talking how he bought Intel before earnings. Derek, if Andrew's still here, Derek has done a lot of work on Intel. Missed the first 30, just started in BTI. I'll have to look at that one. Unfortunately, I'm time constrained. It's British American Tobacco. Okay. Interesting. I'm sure there's a good dividend in there. I'm glad you got into Visa. I just did a whole big thing about Visa and why I like them. And I think 212 is, at the bare minimum, 212 is a very fair price to start an entry point. Chestad, how would you be, talking and reading at the same time. Chestad, good to see you. That would be great news if Amazon hit 4K. I think it's there fundamentally, but it does assume that they hit their numbers. So we'll see. Not everybody's hitting their numbers anymore. It's not as easy as it was. Upstart to 1,000. I'll tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me. And I don't know what to think about that. I like the concept of Upstart. I think they have more room to grow. I don't know. Banking algorithm, loan approval algorithm for savings and loans banks in Omaha, Nebraska. It's just hard for me to get super excited. But I do agree that their market is huge if they keep growing it. We'll see what I do on that one. All right. Igor's Dublin Visa position. Awesome. Guys, thanks so much. I've had a little bit of time constraints where I can't record and chop up videos and shit. It takes forever. So I've been supplementing with these live streams. I hope you like them. And I might even pop on again tomorrow. But doing one of these is, for me, technically it's easier because I can just ramble on and answer questions, and I never have to record, I never have to chop up the tape. So let me know what you think about them. I will get back to recording, but for now I have to supplement because I am balancing a lot of responsibilities. Hopefully I'll have some time tomorrow to hop in. So thanks a lot. We'll see you soon. Take it easy.